All right, so doing example three here. Now, I don't have exact examples you're doing in on the book, but this is a different one. So we're going to set the annual interest rate to 8.95% for a 30-year loan, 12 payments per year, and we're going to say let's make a $750,000 purchase. All right, so we're going to do it two ways. First way we're going to use on the left side here is using formulas within Excel, and on the right side we're going to use formulas that we find within our book. So with Excel, what we can do is for a payment, we can say use the payment function. Well, the payment function is going to give us the following. We have to put in the rate, the number of times per year, the present value, future value type. And some of those we need to put in, some of them we don't. So what do we do? Well, the rate, well, we're going to use our 8.95. So I'm just going to reference it B1 divided by 12. Well, instead of really putting 12, we could actually say, well, let's put B3 in because that's what that is. And then the number of times we're going to do this is going to be what? Well, it's going to be 30 times 12. So that's going to be B2 times B3. And our present value, well, we're taking out the loan, so we owe that much money. And so we're going to say that's a negative $750,000, which is our negative B4. And we hit enter. That gives us our loan amount of $6,007.71. Then what we have to do is we have to set up a table. So we're going to have, a payment number, a principal, an interest, and a balance. So with this one, we have 0 through, and if we go down here, it's 360. And you can do those using the function here. You can have a series and you can start at, 1 and then stop at whatever, if you start at 1 and go up to 360 or whatever. But that's how you can make a series and do it really quick instead of having to type them all in there. So that's kind of a nice thing to know about that is using the series function. Now our balance, that's just our B4. We're just gonna say, well, let's reference that. And so if we ever change the numbers, we can always put in something new here and we have the whole thing done. And then we're gonna use a principal payment and an interest payment to find these two values. So the principal payment is going to be the PPMT, and that's going to be our function here. So what we have to do is we have to take our rate. Now I'm using dollar signs here. And the reason why I'm using dollar signs is because if I don't use dollar signs, it's not going to copy down properly. So it should be this value divided by B3. And that's why I haven't put it in here. That way I can show you that B3 is always going to be, I'm dividing by 12. So the rate divided by 12. Now, the next thing is going to be A10. That's going to be what payment number it is. So and it's going to be per payment number one. And so we don't want to put dollar signs there because as we go to number two, we're going to want that to go to A11. And when we copy down, what it does is it adds one to our payment number. And then we want our what? Well, we want our B2, which is our number of years, times B3, which is the number of times per year we're going to do it. And so we want those to be kind of set in stone too. So we want 30 times 12 always to be the case. And then our last thing is going to be our B4, and so that's going to be the next piece here. So that's going to be our principal. And so we have that. Now, next thing we need to do is I payment. I payment, well, again, a rate is B12, B3. Now we're going to put dollar signs on the B3 because I just wanted to kind of show you that that's how you do it. And then we just keep those things as we go. And then we just hit enter. And again, it's the same kind of things. It's A10, the 30 times 12 and our B4. And that gives us that. And we get our value here. And this is just going to be taking our balance, which is the previous balance, plus the principal. And our principal is negative because that's how much we're paying in. And so it subtracts it off. And then if we want to go down, we can kind of see how does that work. And as we can see, as we go down, our principal is going up, our interest is going down, and our balance is going down. So that's what we want to see. So hopefully now, if we scroll down here, if we go Control D, that shows us clear to the end, we end up with a zero balance. Our last interest payment was $44.48, and our last principal payment was $59.6323. Now, this kind of shows you that instead of making just the basic payment of $6,007.61, maybe you would pay, $6,500, you add extra $500 to principal, that would add that to $900, which would make this go down faster. And what would happen is you would pay off your loans sooner than you would have, and you'd have a lot less interest you would pay overall as well. Now, we do the same thing except with our equations in our book. It's going to look pretty much the same. The only difference is, I put this payment calculator here. I could have said, okay, well, let's put that up here, just kind of like we did here, but I just put it in the table, and it is what it is, so it's okay. So, with that said, what we need to do is we have to think about, does this, if I copy down, is that going to give me different numbers? Yeah. So we can't just do it like that. What we have to do is we have to add in our dollar signs. And so that's why I kind of wanted to show you what it is. So if we're going to put that on all of them, we have to put our dollar signs in every position that's referencing something up in this area that you don't want to change. Otherwise, as you copy down, it changes the value, what it's doing. So if I put this one, it's going to move everything down one over here. Now, if we copy down, does that? Yep, see, it's the same. So the key is making those dollar signs, put it where you want it to keep it staying. If you don't want it to stay, then you don't put the dollar signs, kind of like on the A10, we wanted it to keep moving down as we went down. So if we look at the next one, say 11, 12, 13, no, and so on. All right, so that's going to be this one. Now, what about principal and interest? Well, first things we actually have to do is calculate the interest. We can't do the principal. It's not one that we can do easily. And so the interest is going to be taking what? Well, it's going to be taking our balance, which is our K9 in this case, times our B1 divided by B3. Now, again, we can't just say, okay, well, let's just do that. We have to put our dollar signs in here. Otherwise, we are going to have some weird numbers coming out of here. So we do that. And then this one's going to be what? Well, this one's just going to be, oh, well, I guess we got to get our principal first. We have our payment and our interest. So our principal is just going to be taking this minus that, and we get this value here. Okay. Now we want to keep those changing as we go down. So we're not going to put any dollar signs on there because this one is going to be different, and or this one's going to be the same, but this one's going to be different as we go down. So we want to keep that changing. And then this is going to be that minus that gives us that. Okay. And now, hopefully, if we say, okay, well, let's copy down, I don't know, let's go down to here and see what it looks like. Is it looking like it's doing the same thing here? Well, if we look at our last line, 43606, 557165, and the 60 here, it looks like we have something that's working properly. So then what we can do is we can say, okay, well, let's just copy it all the way down and hit Control D. And we get down to the bottom line and it shows the same thing. Now, these are showing as negative values. These are showing as positive values. So we just have to realize what it is. So that's how much of a payment we're making. So that's how much we're paying out. And so we're paying out that much in principal, paying that much in interest, and our final balance is the $0. So hopefully that helps you set up the two different types of payment schedules for amortization of a loan, and that will be able to get you going for your assignment.